Picture a school morning in Fargo, North Dakota. It is January. The sky is still dark when 12-year-old Eli stands by the kitchen table, backpack open, math homework half finished, winter coat still on the chair. His mother calls his name 3 times. He does not answer. At school, his teacher says Eli used to be funny, curious, and quick to raise his hand. Now he barely looks up. Some days he is silent. Other days he snaps at classmates, pushes a chair too hard, or makes jokes just loud enough to get removed from class. At night he says his stomach hurts. On weekends he stays in his room. His father says he is being disrespectful. His mother wonders, is he depressed? His teacher asks, is this anxiety, defiance, or just adolescence? Welcome back to Mind Diagnosis Lab and the second episode in Inside the Mind of a Growing Child. This is the question at the heart of child psychopathology. When does behavior become a sign of distress, dysfunction, developmental difficulty, or disorder? And more importantly, how do we understand the child without reducing him to a label? In this episode, we will use Eli's story to explore 5 major scientific lenses in child development: biological theory, behavioral theory, cognitive and social cognitive theory, attachment and psychodynamic theory, and family systems with ecological theory. Each theory gives us a different map. None of them explains everything alone. But together, they help us ask better questions. What is happening in Eli's brain and body? What patterns are being reinforced? What thoughts is he using to interpret the world? What relationship expectations has he learned? And what pressures exist in his family, school, culture, and environment? Normal versus abnormal, the 4 Ds. Before any theory can explain Eli, clinicians must first ask whether his behavior is outside the range of expected development. In child psychology, this is more complicated than in adult psychology because children change rapidly. A behavior that is concerning at age 12 might be typical at age 3. A fear that is normal in early childhood may become impairing if it prevents a teenager from functioning at school. This is why clinicians often think in terms of the 4 Ds: deviance, dysfunction, distress, and danger. Deviance asks whether the behavior is unusual compared with age, culture, and context. Dysfunction asks whether it interferes with daily life, school, friendships, sleep, family routines, or self-care. Distress asks whether the child or people around the child are suffering. Danger asks whether there is risk of harm to self or others. The important point is that abnormality is not simply different from average. A child may be unusual without being disordered. A child may be quiet without being depressed. A child may be active without having ADHD. Clinical judgment requires intensity, duration, frequency, developmental stage, cultural meaning, and context. Theories are lenses, not labels. A theory is a structured explanation. It tells us what to look for, what questions to ask, and what kind of intervention might help. But theories can also narrow our vision. A biological clinician may notice sleep, genetics, brain development, and medication. A behavioral clinician may focus on reinforcement and classroom consequences. A cognitive clinician may ask what Eli believes about himself, others, and the future. An attachment-oriented clinician may ask how safety, separation, and emotional availability shape his responses. A family systems clinician may ask how the whole family pattern maintains the problem. The same child can look different through each lens. Lens 1, biological theory. The biological lens begins with the body. It asks whether Eli's anxiety, aggression, or withdrawal may be related to brain development, neurochemistry, hormones, genetic vulnerability, sleep, temperament, or stress physiology. This does not mean that biology is destiny. It means that psychological symptoms are embodied. A child does not experience fear or sadness in the abstract. He experiences them through heart rate, muscle tension, sleep, appetite, attention, cortisol, and neural circuits. Developmentally, this matters because the child brain is still under construction. The frontal lobes, which support planning, impulse control, and emotional regulation, continue maturing into adolescence. So when a 12-year-old acts impulsively, a biological perspective asks about developmental capacity. not only moral choice. Genetics also matter, but rarely in a simple one-gene, one-disorder way. Modern developmental psychopathology emphasizes gene-environment interplay. Vulnerability may be expressed differently depending on stress, parenting, trauma, school support, and protective relationships. Temperament is another key biological developmental concept. Some children are highly reactive, slow to adapt, intense in emotion, or cautious with novelty. These traits can become strengths in the right environment, but risks in a poor fit. For Eli, a biological clinician might ask, is he sleeping? Has his appetite changed? Is there family history of depression or anxiety? Did symptoms appear after puberty began? Is he highly sensitive to threat? Does he become overwhelmed by noise, conflict, or uncertainty? The biological lens protects us from blaming the child, but by itself, it can also be incomplete. A brain develops inside relationships and environments. Lens 2, behavioral theory. The behavioral lens focuses on observable behavior and consequences. It asks, what happens before the behavior? What exactly does the child do? What happens immediately after? And does that consequence increase or decrease the behavior over time? This is the logic of learning. In operant conditioning, behavior is shaped by reinforcement and punishment. Reinforcement increases behavior. Punishment decreases behavior. Positive means something is added. Negative means something is removed. So positive reinforcement means adding something desirable, like praise or attention. Negative reinforcement means removing something unpleasant, like escaping homework. This distinction is crucial because many adults confuse negative reinforcement with punishment. Now return to Eli. When he makes a sarcastic comment in class, the teacher sends him to the hallway. On the surface, that looks like a punishment. But if Eli was overwhelmed by math, being removed from class may actually reward the behavior by allowing escape. If classmates laugh, the behavior may also be rewarded with attention. This is why behavioral clinicians conduct functional behavioral assessment. They ask what function the behavior serves. Does aggression get attention? Does withdrawal avoid shame? Does anxiety allow escape from feared situations? Behavioral theory also includes classical conditioning. A neutral cue can become linked with fear. If Eli was humiliated during a math presentation, the classroom itself may begin to trigger anxiety. Finally, observational learning reminds us that children learn by watching. If conflict at home is solved through yelling, avoidance, or withdrawal, a child may model those strategies. Behavioral theory is powerful because it shows how symptoms can be maintained even when no one intends to maintain them. Lens 3, cognitive and social cognitive theory. The cognitive lens asks what Eli thinks the world means. Two children can experience the same event and interpret it differently. One child receives a low grade and thinks, I need help with this topic. Another thinks, I am stupid, everyone knows it, and nothing will change. Cognition is not just positive thinking. It includes schemas, assumptions, interpretations, attention biases, memory, self-talk, and expectations. Jean Piaget showed that children's reasoning changes across development. Younger children may struggle with perspective taking or with separating appearance from reality. Adolescents develop more abstract reasoning, but they may also become intensely self-conscious. David Elkin described the imaginary audience, the feeling that everyone is watching and judging. He also described the personal fable, the belief that one's experiences are unique, extreme, or impossible for others to understand. For Eli, this could sound like, no one gets it. Everyone is looking at me. If I fail once, I am done. Social cognitive theory, associated with Albert Bandura, adds that children learn beliefs about their own competence. Self-efficacy is the belief that I can do this. When self-efficacy drops, children may avoid tasks, withdraw from peers, or respond defensively. Kenneth Dodge and colleagues also studied hostile attribution bias, when children interpret ambiguous social cues as hostile. If a classmate bumps Eli in the hallway and Eli thinks, he did that on purpose, aggression becomes more likely. A cognitive behavioral clinician would ask, what does Eli believe about himself? What does he expect from others? What situations trigger automatic thoughts? What evidence supports or challenges those thoughts? The intervention may involve identifying distorted thoughts, testing new interpretations, building coping skills, and gradually approaching feared situations. Lens 4: Attachment, Psychodynamic, and Psychosocial Development. The attachment and psychodynamic lens asks what behavior communicates about safety, emotion, and relationships. John Bowlby argued that children form internal working models, expectations about whether caregivers are available, whether the self is worthy of care, and whether others can be trusted. Mary Ainsworth's strange situation research helped classify patterns of attachment such as secure, anxious, resistant, avoidant, and later disorganized patterns. Attachment theory does not say parents are to blame for every child difficulty. It says early relationships shape how children regulate distress and seek help. A securely attached child may feel upset but still expect support. An avoidant child may minimize need. An anxious child may intensify distress to keep connection. A disorganized child may show contradictory behavior when the caregiver is both a source of comfort and fear. Erik Erikson's psychosocial theory adds another developmental frame. At school age, children are often negotiating industry versus inferiority. Can I master tasks? Can I be competent? Can I contribute? In adolescence, identity versus role confusion becomes central. Who am I? Where do I belong? Eli's withdrawal may not only be sadness, it may be shame, fear of dependence, fear of failure, or an attempt to protect the self. A psychodynamic clinician might ask, what feelings are too painful for Eli to express directly? Does anger protect him from sadness? Does joking protect him from humiliation? Does withdrawal protect him from rejection? This lens is valuable because it treats behavior as meaningful, but it must be used carefully with evidence and not as speculation disconnected from observable life. Lens 5: Family systems, parenting, and ecological context. The family systems and ecological lens widens the camera. Instead of asking only what is inside Eli, it asks what patterns surround him. In family systems theory, the child may become the identified problem, but the problem often belongs to a relationship pattern. For example, when Eli refuses homework, his mother may push harder, Eli escalates, his father criticizes, Eli storms away, and everyone ends the night exhausted. The next day, the same pattern repeats. Coercion theory, associated with Gerald Patterson and colleagues, explains how parent-child conflict can become mutually reinforcing. A child escalates to escape a demand. A parent gives in to stop the conflict. Both behaviors become more likely next time. Parenting style matters too. Diana Baumrind described patterns that vary in warmth, structure, and autonomy. Authoritative parenting combines warmth with consistent structure and appropriate independence. Authoritarian parenting emphasizes control with lower warmth. Permissive parenting offers warmth but little structure. Uninvolved parenting offers little warmth or structure. These categories are not moral labels. They are research-informed patterns that can affect development. Bronfenbrenner's ecological theory expands even further. Children develop within nested systems. The microsystem includes family, school, peers, and neighborhood. The mesosystem includes connections among those systems, such as parent-school communication. The exosystem includes forces that affect the child indirectly, like parental job stress. The macrosystem includes culture, policies, economics, values, and social expectations. For Eli, perhaps his father's job loss changed family stress. Perhaps winter isolation reduced activity. Perhaps school transition created academic pressure. Perhaps peer exclusion made every classroom feel threatening. This lens reminds us that children are not isolated units. They develop in systems. Integration, the K3 paradigm. The most useful clinical picture is not one theory replacing all others. It is integration. The K3 paradigm can be translated simply as 3 kinds of knowledge: knowledge of development, knowledge of sources of influence, and knowledge of theoretical perspectives. Development tells us what is typical for Eli's age. Sources of influence tell us what factors in the child and environment are shaping the problem. Theories tell us how to organize the information. So instead of saying, Eli is anxious or Eli is defiant, we can say something more precise. Eli is a 12-year-old navigating school transition, family stress, reduced self-efficacy, possible temperament sensitivity, reinforced avoidance, and relationship patterns that may be maintaining distress. That is a formulation, not just a label. The question is not only, what disorder does this child have? The deeper question is, what developmental pathway is this child on, and what can redirect it? A child who is anxious, aggressive, or withdrawn is not a mystery to be judged. He is a developing person to be understood across biology, learning, thought, attachment, family, school, culture, and time. In the next episode, we will take one of these lenses deeper and ask, how do early relationships become patterns inside the developing mind?